So welcome everybody to Birdie Hour. My name is Serena and I am with the San Francisco Bay Bird Observatory, or SFBBO for short. So SFBBO is a nonprofit based in Milpitas with a mission to promote sustainability in the Bay Area and beyond by engaging communities in avian science, habitat conservation, and education. And this is part 3 of our Birding the Bay Area series, bringing together many of our local birding organizations who are also dedicated to conserving and appreciating birds. We are really excited to have them highlight some of these amazing birding hotspots that we have throughout the Bay Area. And as I mentioned, this is part 3. So if you missed the previous events in the series, the recordings are available online, and I'll be sure to send links to those. But for tonight, I am sure we have quite a lot of ground to cover, so we'll go ahead and jump right into it. So joining us this evening are Madrone Audubon and Napa-Solano Audubon. So we'll learn about some locations and birds in Sonoma, Napa, and Solano counties. So let's go ahead and get started by welcoming Susan Kirks, who is the president of Madrone Audubon Society. So Susan, you can go ahead and share your screen. And Susan, she's not going to have her video available, so you'll just be hearing her tonight, but we're very excited to see what you have to share.
Thank you so much, Serena. Yes, Serena said, I'm Susan Kirks, and I serve as the president of Madrone Audubon Society. We are the Sonoma County chapter of National Audubon, and we are also a 501c3 nonprofit conservation organization. And we have members in Sonoma County, Marin County, and the San Francisco Bay Area. And I'm really pleased to be partnered with Tom from Napa-Solano Audubon this evening, because our counties share some of the really amazing abundance of birding opportunities and being out in nature. And there are so many different areas that I could have selected. And I want this evening to focus on 3. So this evening, I was thinking about how to select some favorite birding locations. And I considered a few things. One is people joining us this evening may be avid birders, and in Sonoma County, you may already have your favorite location. But at the same time, sometimes we are with other people, and people may not be as expert birders as others. They may not be as into birding as we are. And I was thinking about locations that could be accessible to people of all ages, with benches along the way in case someone decided they wanted to sit down and not, for example, take a 4-hour walk in an area, or just enjoy nature and being outdoors. So those are the parameters through which I was looking to select 3 spots in Sonoma County that I would like to recommend to our visitors with us this evening, that will bring you lots of joy, lots of fresh air. And if you have someone with you who may not be as dedicated to birding as you are, will also bring them some real wonderful feelings out in nature. So I selected 3 spots: Central Sonoma County in East Santa Rosa, Spring Lake Regional Park, and then moving westward to our Sonoma County coast, Doran Beach, which is also known as Doran Regional Park, and then moving southward toward Marin County, right at the county line in Sonoma County, the Ellis Creek Wastewater Recycling Facility that has public trails. So let's begin with Spring Lake Regional Park. This is, of course, a very popular birding location, but it's also got lots of other amenities. And as I mentioned, there are benches. There are also picnic tables if you wanted to bring a picnic with you. Right now, they're celebrating their 50th anniversary, so I would recommend not visiting there unless you're already signed up to go, because there'll be so many people there until next week. So probably May 7th onward would be a good time to go and see multiple bird species where there are, I believe it's a little over 300 acres here. And as you can see, there's a large freshwater lake, of course, called Spring Lake. And there are trails on a variety of places, but we like the Spring Lake Loop Trail. Oh yes, 320 acres. Thank you, Susan. And there are two main entrances. So we always recommend using the north entrance, which is 393 Violetti Road. And the Spring Lake Loop Trail, if you're not familiar with Spring Lake and you haven't explored all the trails, it's flat, it's accessible. You will see so many different wonderful things from nature, including birds. And the park opens at 7 a.m. and it closes at sunset. There is a parking fee. And so the parking staff with regional parks always suggest to bring cash. It's better, although the machines there do take cards. They say actually it's their mantra, bring a 5 plus 2 ones and keep it with you for the $7 parking fee. And if you're visiting another regional park in Sonoma County that day, you can use the same stub. You don't have to pay again. So that's relevant for our next location, which is going to be Doran Regional Park, and use that and you don't have to pay again. And so when we go to Spring Lake Regional Park, which is also where Madrone Audubon hosts many of our free outings to our members and to the public, you'll see a variety of species: woodpeckers, warblers, sparrows, egrets, herons, owls, and you might see a river otter or a mink. And it's also a very popular place for photographers. And one of my favorite photographers and friends, and some of you this evening may know Tom Reynolds, who photographs all around Sonoma County and the Bay Area and California. He often shares his photographs from his visits to a variety of places. And here are a few from Spring Lake Regional Park. Pileated woodpecker, a Cape May warbler was seen in September of 2022. The hermit thrush, and the American white pelican. And so Spring Lake Regional Park is our choice for, especially for beginners, to accompany expert birders. Moving west to the coast of Sonoma County, where driving on Bodega Highway helps you enter into Bodega Bay, and you can roll your window down and enjoy the incredibly fresh air and see the vastness of Bodega Bay that stretches into the Pacific Ocean. It's really quite a healing experience in and of itself. And if you want to select a location for great birding, Doran Beach or Doran Regional Park is one of everyone's favorites. It's at 201 Doran Beach Road in Bodega Bay. And if you're coming from the south, as I mentioned, you take Bodega Highway to Doran Beach Road, and that takes you into the park. And if you're coming from the north, which means that sometimes people drive from Santa Rosa through Sebastopol to reach the coast, you would take Doran Park Road to Doran Beach Road. And once you get into the parking lot, of course, you must pay your parking fee again, but if you've been to another regional park that day, you can use the same stub. Some people on in our meeting this evening may be members of the Sonoma County Regional Park, so you'll already have a parking pass, but I'm tailoring my presentation this evening for people who may be outside the area of Sonoma County and want to plan a day trip, and you want to be assured that you're going to see some of the birds and wonders of nature that you drove all the way there to see. So passerines are often seen in the brush area just before the first parking lot. And of course, when you're there, you will be assured of seeing shorebirds, seabirds, you'll see sanderlings, dunlins, and more. There is a coastal birding access trail that you can find in the park, and that will take you along the coast to also view seabirds and shorebirds and whatever else you might see at that time. the Doran Beach is a 2-mile stretch, so you could walk 2 miles out and 2 miles back if you feel like it. And at the kiosks at both Doran Beach and at Spring Lake Regional Park, you should be able to find a bird checklist, which was a labor of love by many of our Madrone Audubon volunteers a few years ago. We created these bird checklists, which list every species that have been documented. And you can carry that with you if you like, to mark off the species or to just have it. The bird checklist for Doran Beach is on the web. So if you Google birds of Doran Regional Park or birds of Doran Beach, the checklist will actually come up and you could print it out and bring it with you if you wanted to. But regional parks is supposed to maintain the paper checklist at their kiosks. And a good resource for details, especially if you're an expert and avid birder, I always like to acknowledge some of our Sonoma County birders and conservationists who have given so much of themselves and their time to do research and compile information and post it on the web. So I'd like to recommend that if you want to have more details about Doran Beach, you can check out Colin Talcroft's website, which is www.colintalcroft.com, Sonoma_County_bird_watching. So I'll just leave that for a second in case anyone wants to quickly. You could even Google Colin Talcroft, Sonoma County, and you'll find that. And then from Doran Beach, because we're on the coast and it's such a beautiful area, and honestly, I always feel so fortunate when I live inland, and when I go to the coast to Bodega Bay, I feel so grateful to be able to live here and to be able to work to protect our Sonoma County coast. So if you go to Doran Beach or Doran Regional Park, if you head north, not too far up on Highway 1, you may find the Bodega Head. It's 4 miles long and 1 mile wide. It's a great area to just walk for peace and respite. It's a wonderful area also for whale watching, if you decide that you want to also combine whale watching with bird watching. And there's a trail that's available there to walk out to the head. And there are signs that are very visible going up Highway 1 to the Bodega Head. So that's our Bodega Bay area, which is very popular for birding, and which honestly our chapter works fiercely with other conservationists to protect as a very sensitive and very important environmental area to also support our birds and wildlife. I would be remiss if I didn't mention 2 areas before we move into our third birding location. And that is lots of people these days are very into raptors and like to take specific outings and hikes at certain times of the year to see as many raptors as possible. And so on the Sonoma County coast, the Jenner Headlands Preserve, which is further north from Bodega Head that we just looked at, north on Highway 1, the Jenner Headlands Preserve is a very large protected property that is used each year in October, late September, October, November, for the West County Hawk Watch group to document migrating raptors as they fly south. And so in the fall and winter, especially, or early winter, this is a great property. It's open to the public with trails that take you to the top. If you bring your binocs, you'll see that. And you'll also probably see some American badger digs there and some other interesting wildlife, such as bobcats and an occasional coyote. And then another great raptor location in Sonoma County is Tole Lake Regional Park, which is further south in South County, inland in Petaluma. That's also a wonderful location. It's a regional park, so the same parking requirements and the fee, the $7 fee, would apply. It's also a great fall raptor viewing location. So 2 raptor areas that we recommend in Sonoma County, Jenner Headlands Preserve and Tole Lake Regional Park. The last birding hotspot, which I love, your description for that, I'd like to share with you is, as we said, Tole Lake Regional Park is in South Sonoma County. So we're back in South Sonoma County now in Petaluma, Ellis Creek Ponds and Trails. This is the Ellis Creek Wastewater Treatment Facility. It's on Cypress Drive in Petaluma. There is a lot of parking. It's all free. It's very ample. And this property has connections to Schollenberger Park and Almond Marsh. And together, these 3 properties with one additional one that I'm not mentioning because it's separate from these 3, comprise the Petaluma Wetlands. And 2018, I'm pleased to say that our Madrone Audubon Society persevered for 4 years and helped achieve the designation for these wetlands as a Ramsar wetland of international importance. And so this, like Las Colinas, many of you may have visited Las Colinas in Marin County, the wastewater treatment plant there. This is a wastewater treatment plant that it's a tertiary treatment facility, and it has secondary and tertiary treatment ponds and then public trails through most of the property there with amazing number of species, over 100 that can be viewed, enjoyed, photographed. And again, of course, you'll want to bring your binocs with you for that. And so here's a map of the facility, and I'm not certain how clear the writing is, but in the middle of the map, you'll see these 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, D, these 3 ponds. These are the areas where the trails are meandering through. And then there is another set of ponds in the bottom right of the screen that are not open to the public. But you can imagine with the water, the treatment, the tules, the cattails, the grasses, the trees on this property. Right now it's nesting season. It's a great time to go. There are just multiple species that are nesting in this area at Ellis Creek. And the mosquitoes, of course, in the summer especially, are great food for all of the swallows, the nearby nesting cliff swallows, tree swallows, and a multitude of other species. So they are able to find a lot of nutrition here to be able to raise their young. There are also nest boxes, tree swallows, western bluebirds, and barn owl boxes on this property. And I must give acknowledgement to the stewards of the Petaluma Wetlands. They used to be part of Madrone Audubon Society, and they have formed their own, excuse me, their own nonprofit now, Petaluma Wetlands Alliance. They are wonderful stewards of Ellis Creek, well, actually more Schollenberger Park and Almond Marsh, with an interface. Since this is a public works property, it's not necessarily a public park such as Schollenberger Park and Almond Marsh, but it is a wastewater treatment facility, a public works property, and there is a relationship there. And in fact, Madrone Audubon is helping to sponsor nesting surveys at this property right now, starting tomorrow, as a matter of fact, so that we help assure that nesting areas are designated so that vegetation management can be guided by that. And so there will not be harm to active nests, and we'll be sure that Petaluma complies with the Migratory Bird Treaty Act and our state code. So I'm pleased to say that that Madrone Audubon is initiating and helping to lead that effort at this particular property next year. And as I mentioned, you can see the lesser goldfinch. There are just so many avian species there, herons, egrets, owls, also lots of insects too. Some people love to go and photograph different insects there. And so this is coming to the end of my presentation, where I wanted to highlight 3 areas for birding and enjoying nature, and to bring people of all ages, especially if you're an expert birder and you would like to have someone accompany you to be out in nature who will enjoy being out. Spring Lake Regional Park in Santa Rosa, Doran Regional Park in Bodega Bay, which includes a visit to Bodega Head if you have time, Ellis Creek Wastewater Treatment Facility in Petaluma, and then in fall and early winter, Jenner Headlands Preserve and Toley Lake Regional Park for raptor viewing. And please visit our website at madroneaudubon.org. I'm happy to be in contact with anyone if you have any questions, if you'd like suggestions. And on behalf of our mascot, the little Buick's Wren, thank you all very much. It's been a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much, Susan. Those spots sound like they're so beautiful, and I have to commend you and Madrone Audubon for all the work that you're doing to protect these spaces that you talked about. So thank you so much, Susan.
Thanks.
All right, so now we now have Tom Slyker, who is the Vice President of Napa-Solano Audubon Society.
I'm from Tom Slyker. I'm Vice President of the Napa-Solano Audubon Society. Our bird of choice is the song sparrow. Don't ask me why, it was a long time ago when people chose it. But we focus primarily on birding, education, citizen science, and a little bit of habitat conservation. I think the focus of most Audubon societies is birding, and we have weekly field trips. We have monthly trips outside of our counties. If you're interested in our field trips, go to our website, sign up for our email blast list, and you will get notification of the outings that we have within our counties. Solano County itself and Napa County are located in the northeast corner of the Bay Area. We're very close to Sacramento, going out at the other end of Solano County, and we share the border, as Susan says, with Sonoma County along a ridge in Napa. Education. Just to say that we're very focused on education. We have a grade level standard program for primarily 5th and 4th grade students. We don't go to the classroom just once. We go 4 or 5 times with the emphasis on repeated presentation about birds, about environment, about conservation, about getting students more knowledgeable about these things and bringing to them, hopefully that they will continue to look for birds and things in the outside world around them. We include field experiences, we have scholarships, we do things like that. And this is just some of the activities going on in the classrooms. We collaborate with the Napa Wildlife Research, and so they bring their animals to some of the school presentations that we have. The kids get to see things like the red-tailed hawk. We are involved in citizen science. We work with the California Bluebird Recovery Program. We monitor nesting boxes. We're involved with the CA Bird Seasons Project with the California Audubon, the Climate Watch participation with the National Audubon. We have 2 Christmas bird counts, one in Benicia that was started in 1930. It's been going almost 100 years. The Angwin bird count in Napa. And then we participate in a lot of citizen science projects with the local organizations like Audubon Canyon Ranch, Point Blue, SFBBO, UC Davis's Tricolored Blackbird Program. And finally, I'm proud that prior to my joining the society, they completed the breeding bird atlas for both Napa and Solano County. And I'll show you a picture of the book for Solano County in a second. For the Bluebird program, we monitor 120 boxes in Napa County and another 50 on Solano Land Trust property, Lynch Canyon in Solano County. And so we provide all the data back to CBRP at the end of the year for all the nesting, all the fledglings that fledge, and we hopefully help increase the population of that beautiful bluebird, western bluebird that you see on the right here. Wonderful birds to see out in the field. Just to say, the Breeding Bird Atlas Our Solano book is actually 214 pages long. It's really a coffee table book. It's beautiful colored volume. It's got pictures of the 158 species that potentially breed in the county, with information about each of the species. And so it's a very nice book if you are looking for a colorful book for your household. This is something that's available on our website. Now to the birding. Napa County. Napa is basically the Napa Valley, surrounded by hills, mountains on both sides of the valley. The valley itself is pretty much all private vineyard land. There's one place within the valley, the Napa River Ecological Reserve, very close to Yountville, that is on the river, that you can actually bird riparian area in the middle of the valley. The rest of it's all private land. You have to know somebody to be able to access the river. But on the hillsides, on the side with Sonoma, we have both a state park, which is redwoods. We have Lake Berryessa, which on the east side and at the north end is very good birding. Our Angwin in Los Posadas National Forest, or California Forest, is the location for our Angwin Christmas bird count. Lake Hennessy is very good for oak woodland and for nesting grebes, and there's nesting bald eagles at Lake Hennessy. And then further south in Napa, in the city of Napa, right on the river, is the Kennedy Park. And then to the east of the town of Napa is the Skyline Wilderness Park. So those are good places there. Probably the best places to bird in the county, though, one is Huchica Buckley Station, and the other is my favorite, which is the Wetlands Edge Park in American Canyon. These are parks that are closer to the San Pablo Bay. And so I'm going to go through the American Canyon Wetlands Park. It is located halfway between Vallejo and Napa in the city of American Canyon. The park itself is right here. It's about 1 mile walk from Highway 29. And so you go out Eucalyptus Road here and you reach the park, and you're right on the edge of the Napa River. This is from Golden Gate Audubon Society. They're taking a field trip in May. And so I'm just taking what they'll tell you, which is you can routinely see between 50 and 70 species on a single visit. One of the things about these birds is that they're very visible. They're out in the open. Right now in the summer, the counts are closer to 50. This is actually one of my patches, this park. And in the winter, in a 2-hour walk, I can see close to 70 species. Right now, this time of year, I see closer to 50. The ducks and the shorebirds are gone, which reduces the count somewhat. But the amazing thing, I took my brother there, and he was just amazed at how close the birds are, how visible they are, how easy it is to see the birds in this area. And one of the benefits of the park is that it's along the river. It's got a fantastic combination of habitat for water birds and shorebirds, for grassland, and for woodland species. So quite a mix. This is the park itself. When you reach the end of Eucalyptus Drive, you reach the parking lot for the park. They have the trails going through the park. The best time of the year really to visit is between late August and mid-April. This is when all the shorebirds and the ducks are in the water in the park. Right now, from April to August, we'll have fewer birds, but we do have the summer migrants, all the tree swallows and things like that, nesting activity, and we're monitoring the nest at the park. We have 16 bluebird boxes throughout this park. Accessibility. Parking is free, but it is a small parking lot. A lot of times you have to park along Eucalyptus Road and then walk down to the location. Public transportation is difficult. You'd have to take a ferry to Vallejo and then a bus from Vallejo to Napa and get off at basically the middle of American Canyon City, American Canyon, and then you can be a 1 mile walk to get to the park entrance. So not really public transport accessible. It's open, the park is open from 6 to 10. There's a suspect porta potty at the entrance to the park, and there's no restroom facilities in the park itself. So be prepared. The water fountains don't exist, so you need to bring water. All the trails are flat. Most are paved. Some are gravel. There's no potholes. It's easy walking. The distance you walk just depends on how far you want to walk. I usually cover 2 to 3 miles at a mile per hour while I'm birding when I'm there. If you're looking for the burrowing owls, or you want to look for all the roosting avocets and shorebirds, I bring a bike. It just makes it easier to get around the park. There's very little shade, so bring sunscreen. And there's very few benches. They're spread out quite distant. So be prepared to be on your feet for the time that you're there. For the park itself, the start, you're looking at maybe 10 species just standing in the parking lot. When you leave the parking lot, the area to your left is all grassland, open grassland. Down along the edge here is the reeds and things and the pickleweed between the grassland and the tidal ponds. On the north side, you have an open pasture area that's 4-H property. They don't do much with it except leave it fallow. And then in this area right in here, all the way along here and up above the trails is all eucalyptus forest. There's no native trees there, but there are a lot of eucalyptus trees in that area. If you're looking towards the grasslands or towards the pasture lands for the 4-H club as you're going down, you'll see nettles, woodpeckers, and in the trees you'll see the raptors, the merlins, the red-tailed hawks. You might see a merlin eating breakfast. On the right-hand side this year, we've had a nesting great horned owl that's visible. You can see its 2 nestlings. They just fledged, and there's nobody in the nest now, but it was up for till last week. We were watching those owls grow. And in the grasslands, you'll see the white-tailed kites out in the fields. As you go further down, and you're looking to the left, there's a tidal pond. It's a very shallow pond. When the tide's out, you would see the shorebirds like the avocets and the godwits. When the tide's in, you'll see mainly dabbling ducks. You won't see diving ducks here. Teal, shovelers, widgeons, and in the area in between the shoreline of the tidal pond and the walkway and the eucalyptus trail, you'll find song sparrows and marsh wren, common yellowthroat, and occasionally you hear black rails calling. If you go farther out and look to the north in the pond to the north, this pond is kind of interesting. Right here, there is a pipe that goes underneath the road. This is the only access for this tidal pond. And so when this tidal pond over here is mudflat because of the receding tide, this pond over here will still be full of water, and you'll still see diving ducks in this area because it takes a long time for it to drain. When this tidal pond is full, you'll still see mudflats over here and shorebirds because it just takes it a long time to fill. So it's a kind of interesting dichotomy between these 2 tidal ponds. And this area right along here, you'll see green-winged teal within 10 yards of you, just swimming in the water. There are a lot of people in this park. The ducks and the shorebirds are very used to people, and they aren't frightened. They just continue to do their thing in the water while you walk by. So in this pond, you might see the teal, the cinnamon teal. You'll see some ruddy ducks. You'll see the stilts and the greater yellowlegs. You'll see different types of birds that way. As you go further out, if you decide to make the loop going down around this area, this was up until the 1990s, the landfill for Napa and Solano counties, and all the garbage and trash from both counties was deposited in this area. In the 90s, they covered it over They've put in piping to capture all the gases coming out, the methane coming out. They have a cogeneration plant where they burn it and generate electricity. They have solar panels on top of this landfill. It's about 2 stories high. You can't access it. You can only go around it on a trail. But it is a grassland area rather than a riparian area or a water area. And so you'll see in this area things like the western meadowlark, the Savannah sparrow, the Say's phoebe. We have resident burrowing owls. Last year we had 2 of them. Previous years we've had 1, but we almost always have a burrowing owl that will be out in this area from say October, November in through March or April. And on the east side over in here where the bay is one of the better places to see the northern harriers flying in the air in that area. So doing that. As you go out further on the trail, at this point you have a choice. If you go out to Glass Beach and you go this way, there's no access between these 2 trails. So if you head this way, you have to go all the way around to get back over here or back the way you came. But when you get out to Glass Beach, you're looking out over the Napa River, which is much deeper as far as the water goes. So you start to see more of your diving ducks. You'll get your common goldeneye, you'll get your canvasbacks, you get your grebes, your western and Clark grebes. You get rafts in the winter. You get rafts of this winter I counted, I think, up to 1,000 scott floating in a long raft in the middle of the river. You get large rafts of coots at times, bufflehead. And if you look at the navigation sign number 6 out in the middle of the river, you'll see a nesting osprey. The pelicans come in when the tide is out and there are open sandbars in the middle of the river. So you see those types of birds at that location. As you walk back along from Glass Beach through to the bridge that's over here, you will hopefully be there either when tide is pushing in or when tide is just receding. It'll force all the shorebirds right up along the area here, and you get very close and good views of the shorebirds. If you're there when tide is out, basically you're looking at a large mud flat, and then the shorebirds are farther away. So you hopefully get there at the right time to see the shorebirds. But if you're looking from that point in the corner, you in that tidal pond next to the river, you'll get the shorebirds like the leaf sandpiper, the curlew. You'll get the ducks like the pintails in the winter. We had blue-winged teal there. At that one location, right underneath you on the bridge there's nesting black phoebes. So if you want to climb down under the bridge, you can see the phoebe nest. And we were lucky enough maybe 3 winters ago as we were headed out to that bridge to see 2 bald eagles fly in. You get a suspect picture taken through my scope, but the bald eagle on the left had just caught a green-winged teal, and you can see that he's plucking the feathers off of the green-winged teal he's holding in his talons. So that was a year that there were so many teal out on that pond that you could actually probably walk from here to here right across the pond from green-winged teal to green-winged teal all the way across. There were just hundreds or even thousands of them out there. It was a huge population. Let's see. The next part of the canyon wetlands, this is this part right in here going from this down into this area. This is a road leading from the wastewater treatment plant for American Canyons. The road goes down and surrounds 2 ponds that are right in this area. They feed their final water into these ponds for evaporation. So these are evaporation ponds for the wastewater treatment plant. That means that they have a lot of nutrients, I believe, in the ponds, and they have a lot of green stuff that grows on top of them. But being freshwater ponds, they bring in the sora. They have nesting common gallinules that are in the reeds that exist right along the edge of these ponds. And so you have some beautiful birds in there, very close-up views of them. A couple years ago, we saw 2 different generations of gallinial nestlings feeding on the ponds along with their parents. The reeds around the ponds are great nesting places for the red-winged blackbirds. And right now, you may see 1 black heron in all of the reeds around the pond. But if you come back in July, you'll see 10. If you come back in October, you'll see 50. By December, there are 100 or more black-crowned night herons surrounding this small pond. It's just full of them. And then sometime in late December or early January, they just all disappear and you're back to 1 black-crowned night heron. It's nesting season, the start of nesting season, and they disappear. The area right around these ponds, again, is all the eucalyptus forest. And in the eucalyptus forest, you can see the peregrines sitting in the trees up there, ravens, turkey vultures, red-tailed hawks, red-shouldered hawks, all kinds of raptors in that particular area. And then the last place to stop before you head back to the parking lot would be, they call this pepper pond, but I always called it pie-billed reed palm. There's a creek that actually runs out of American Canyon and flows down and feeds into this pond. And then this pond feeds into the tidal pond below it. But this is a freshwater pond, different than the water that's going into the evaporation ponds. And starting in August, there's a 1 or 2 or 3 pie-billed grebes that'll be in that pond. They are there all the way till they just left mid to late April, and they'll come back in August. They've gone to their nesting areas, I think, higher up in the Sierras as far as that goes, or other locations. But surrounding the pond, you'll see the common yellowthroats. This is the one place in the Wetlands Park where the belted kingfisher shows up, maybe 3 or 4 times a year, sticks around for a week at a time, fishes in the pond, and then goes someplace else. In midwinter, we'll get 4 or 5 ring-necked ducks that'll show up, spend a week or 2, and then they'll be gone. And there are some nesting red-tailed hawks living in the area. So that is the American Canyon Wetlands Park. It is a wonderful place for beginners, for experienced birders. If you have a chance, the one place you can do is go further north up this trail towards Green Island. At high tide, there are places along the river where there are hundreds of godwits and dowitchers and willets, and there's a pond up there where maybe 300 or 400 avocets all sit in the pond, a big white dot in the middle of this pond. So all the roosting birds have find a very shallow part on the river further north of here, and it's a great sight to see just that many birds in one small location. So that is birding in Napa County. For Solano County, we have more varied habitat than Napa County. We have a few more species, if you look at the eBird list, found in Solano County than Napa County. Where we have is along the coast here, Highway 37 and in Vallejo, a very good area for seeing shorebirds. In Lynch Canyon in the winter, a very good place for seeing raptors. This is a Solano Land Trust property. They run cattle in here. There's a lot of cattle grazing, but there's also riparian corridors that are protected and kept away from the cattle. There's a resident golden eagle here, so you can see a golden eagle at this location. Rush Ranch is marshland, wetlands area, but with surrounded by hills and open grassland. Out in this area, on Highway 12, just north of Highway 12, Highway 138, south of Dixon, there's roads out in this area, and this used to be cattle ranching. It's now pretty much open farmland, very good for raptors in the winter. Mountain plovers show up in the winter. One time I was driving on the roads here, and for about 3/4 of a mile, there was a field that was just covered with curlews and killdeer, and it was a mixed flock that was just feeding its way along this field. It was amazing to see that many of those particular birds in one location. Lagoon Valley is a great place with a lake and with oak woodlands, with a riparian area in that area. All the expert birders in Solano County right now and in the area are up here on Blue Ridge Road, going up Mix Canyon, going up Gates Canyon. This is where all of the migrants coming up out of the San Joaquin Valley, Sacramento Valleys are going up over the canyon here. This is the lowest part in the ridge leading into Napa Valley, Napa County. And you were able to see lots of warblers, lousily bunting, all kinds of interesting migrants going through that area right now. They've got mountain quail that they're hearing up there. Last year they had a roadrunner. It's an interesting area for birding. And then up in the top corner of the property is Puda Creek, and Puda Creek runs all the way from Lake Berryessa up in this area down and along the upper northern edge of Solano County, and ends up over in Davis, leaves the county over in the Davis area doing that. What I wanted to touch on in Solano County is the Benicia area and Lake Solano Park. This is a very bad map of Benicia, but it was the best thing I could find on the Google searches. So this is Highway 780 running through Benicia. On the shoreline, we have the Benicia State Park right here. We have 9th Street Park right here. We have the Benicia Pier right here. These are very good areas for monitoring the shoreline in the Carquinez Strait. And then up in this area, we have Lake Herman, which is connected to Benicia Community Park, which is connected to this wetlands right here, Kearney Wetlands. This area produces, over 200 species have been seen. The same down here for the state recreation area. So both of them are very good areas for birding. The state park is a paved walking trail that goes all the way around the park. You can pay for park entrance and pay for parking. The benefit of paying for the parking is that you can drive out to the best birding areas and the restrooms and the area out here. You can also walk in from this part of the park and take a trail that takes you up to the entrance and then around like that. The trail from one side of the park to the other is about 2.5 miles. This is paved trail, mostly flat. You have restrooms, you have water fountains, you have picnic tables. If you're taking public transportation, Soltrans will stop right here, and you can basically be right at the entrance to the walk into the park. And the park's open from 8 a.m. To sunset. If you want to get in earlier than 8 a.m., you just park over here, walk in as soon as sunrise happens. The Carquinez Strait Shoreline, parking's free at both the 1st Street Pier and the 9th Street Park. Public transportation takes you within walking distance of either of these places. They're both open from 6 a.m. to sunset, and they both have restrooms and water. What you have along the Carquinez Strait is not the pickleweed and the flat, muddy areas that you see in other shoreline areas. It's more of a rocky shoreline. So we do get the black oyster catcher. We get the spotted sandpiper. And then if you're looking out into the Carquinez Strait, you see huge rafts of water birds. You get rafts of surf scoter, you get rafts of canvasback, you get rafts of scaup. And usually every winter, somewhere among those rafts will have at least one long-tailed duck. So it's a great place to get good close-up views of your water birds and some very interesting shorebirds. The community park is different. It's up off of the shoreline. It's up in the hills of Benicia. There's a bus route that'll take you right up to the start of the community park right here. From these Kearney wetlands here, walking through the park and down to Lake Herman is about 1 mile walk. In this area, you go through 1, 2, 3, 4 habitat zones. You have the lake, you have a transition zone in open grasslands and coyote bush property in here. You have the ballpark with all this grass and ball fields. And then down here, you have beaver dams that back up the water, create reeds and wetland areas. The park is open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. But if you park on the streets over here, you can start, as early as the sun comes up. You have restrooms, you have paved trails. You do have a steep descent of a couple hundred feet from the park down to the lake. So that's one thing you have to be aware of. They have benches, picnic tables, stuff like that. The unique things that you might see in that Kearney Park area, you might see hooded mergansers. We see them every winter. You have lots of red-winged blackbirds. There's a nesting red-tailed hawk right now with 2 nestlings in the nest. You have in this area gallinules. People have heard black rail, Virginia rail. There was a least bittern that showed up at this particular wetland last winter. It's just an excellent place to see these types of birds, as well as a gentleman who has maybe 10 feeders and has a property that attracts a lot of sparrows and other types of birds, spotted towhees, white-throated sparrows, things like that. As you go into the park and you go through that transition zone, there are nesting kingbirds. There are nesting orioles that have shown up now. So you have these types of birds in the park. In the park in the summer, you've got your robins and your blackbirds and things like that. Surprisingly, in the winter, they let the grass grow in the park. They block off all the ball fields. And at our Christmas bird counts, we have as many as 100 Wilson snipe being counted out in the ball fields in the middle of the park. And then down at the lake, we have a Caspian terns, we have ducks, we have grebes, we have herons. We've got swimming otters back at this pond over here. We've seen a beaver, and you have a resident or semi-resident bald eagle that shows up from time to time flying around the park. And so Lake Herman. So it's a very good park for that. Again, on a general walk, between 40 and 50 species in a 2-hour walk. And one of the things is I don't bird very well by ear. So I really do have to see the species to be able to put them down in eBird as a bird observed that particular day. And then the last place to touch on is the Lake Solano County Park, which is way out in the boonies in Solano County. It is north of Vacaville. To get there, you have to go up Pleasant Valley Road, which is really a very pleasant drive through farmlands and open country and grasslands, oak woodlands up into this area here. Or you can take the Freeway 505 up to Winters and then take Highway 128 back to Lake Solano. Lake Solano is actually part of Puda Creek. Puda Creek runs like this down here. At this place, they have a diversion dam that diverts and holds the water and builds the water flow for the Puda Creek Canal, which feeds water to much of the farming out further east in Solano County. And so it's a lake, a long, narrow lake that's created by this diversion dam. Park accessibility, public transport is basically impossible. The nearest bus stop, which is like once or twice a day, is in Winters, which is 5 miles away. You just can't get there by public transportation. There's lots of available parking at the park, but you got to pay for it. The parking lot opens at 8 o'clock. It's locked till then. And you can't find any parking nearby before 8 o'clock. So your walk starts at 8 o'clock. It is a campground. It does have boat launch. If you like to kayak, it's a great place to kayak and bird. The Lake Solano area has a nature trail that goes along the edge of the campgrounds here. And then it has a day use area and extends along the lake this way. So both of the areas are along the lake, one going to the north and the other going to the south. Both paths are flat. The north path is dirt, the south path is paved. The round trip for each path is approximately a mile. So you probably cover about 2 miles if you cover both sides of the road when you're at the park. There's lots of restrooms, easy access, lots of benches and places to sit down. There are trees for shade, but you're out in the valley, the Sacramento Valley, and it gets hot in the summer. So be prepared for the heat if you go in the summer months. North of the Pleasant Valley Road in the campground area, you'll see lots of acorn woodpeckers. This last winter, the Lewis's woodpeckers came in. They seem to be sticking around, and so we're hoping that we'll have a constant viewing of Lewis's woodpeckers going into the future. One of my reasons for going to this park is the easy accessibility to see wood ducks. I just think they're one of the most beautiful birds that you can see. You're definitely going to see a green heron there, or possibly 2 or 3. It's one of the only places or in Solano County where you can find Barrow's goldeneye, and they seem to be there every winter. And then right now it's migrant season, and so you do get things like the orange-crowned warbler, different types of migrants floating through this area. To the south in the day use area, you will see birds. Their trees are different than the oak woodland around the campground. You get more of the sycamore type trees and more trees with mistletoe, which provides the ability to see the phenopepla. So it's a very good place to see a phenopepla, which is another good reason to go to this particular park. You do have an option to chance to see sapsuckers and hermit thrushes, and right now you might see migrating pack-soap flycatchers, and for a long while there was a particular tree with a western screech owl, and you'd have a very good view of the western screech owl sitting in its tree. He's no longer a resident at the park, and so it's too bad, but for a long time that was a good bird to see. That's the end of my talk. Hope you enjoyed it. Most of these photos, the birds, were taken by Mark Stevenson, who's the president for Napa-Solano Audubon Society. And then the additional photos were taken from the eBird website, and these are the list of people and the pictures that I borrowed from the eBird website. So back to you, Serena. Questions?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tom. I know that level of detail is amazing, and I know that's going to be a great resource for folks. We don't have a lot of time for questions, or we're holding you a little bit past, but I did see one question earlier, and I think either of you could address it, and that's, would we see raptors in early September?
Certainly.
Yeah. In Sonoma County, that is correct. It's usually the observations begin mid-September, and usually the highest number in our area for going down the Pacific Flyway are from September through the end of October, maybe into early November. And the expert groups who are doing the observations are just also noting potential climate change impacts. So that's basically traditionally mid-September through the end of October to early November, give or take some time. Thanks. Sorry, Tom, I just jumped right in.
Oh, no problem. We have raptors pretty much year round at the American Canyon Wetlands. We have Benicia Community Park. We were there 2 weeks ago. We had kites. We had red-tailed hawks. We've got nesting red-tailed hawks. We've got kestrels, a bald eagle. Had an osprey there. So we have a lot of raptors. But if you want to see ferruginous hawks, definitely winter out in that area south of Dixon is an excellent place, and Lynch Canyon is a hot spot for all kinds of raptors in the fall and winter. So depends on what you're looking for. The other thing is Swainson's hawks. I was in American Canyon, just north of the wetlands there, monitoring herons and egrets, and I saw a pair of Swainson's hawks out in that area. So we do have those in the area too right now.
And could I just add, since Tom mentioned Lynch Canyon, what's wonderful about being adjacent Napa-Solano and Sonoma counties, Larry Broderick is our expert naturalist in Sonoma County, and he leads some really great outings over in Solano County each year. I think he does Rush Ranch, Lynch Canyon, as well as in Sonoma County, and he's one of the heads of the West County Hawk Watch here. So so if you're looking for a good guided outing and you see his name, he's a good person to join.
Yeah. I think he does his Hawk Watch through Solano Land Trust. So he works with Solano Land Trust, and those outings are posted on the Solano Land Trust website. So you'd find out.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much for sharing that. That's amazing. So again, I want to thank you, Tom and Susan, for these great presentations. I just know that they're going to be great for people to refer to. People have already said that they're looking forward to visiting the spots that you have mentioned. And so I also just want to say to everybody that because this is the last event of our Birding the Bay Area series for now, I just want to thank everybody for being here, for attending and supporting these programs. And it's been really great bringing all of these different groups together and learning about all these amazing locations that are new to so many people. So thank you so much. And of course, we haven't had all the Bay Area and Bay Area adjacent counties represented so far, but that's not for lack of trying. But if you know someone who is interested in adding to the series, you're welcome to get me connected with them. But again, thank you so much, everybody. And Tom and Susan, I want to invite you to, say any last things you want to say to everybody before we sign off this evening. So maybe Susan, we can start with you.
Great. Yes, actually, Tom, I loved the photographs also in your presentation. And I want to say thanks to everyone who joined us this evening. Again, to you, Serena, for your excellent hosting and organization. Be sure to check out our webpage. On our homepage, we list our outings, conservation alerts, and other things. And I'm always available if anyone has any questions. And I did post an answer or a comment about the bald eagles who have made a big comeback along the Sonoma County coast. I didn't mention them in my presentation simply because we have some really eager photographers in the area now who are potentially causing some nest disturbance. So for us this evening, yes, we have bald eagles along the Sonoma County coast, and thank you all for observing them. And thanks again, everybody. I really enjoyed being with you.
Yeah.
And then anything you want to mention, Tom?
Oh, just thank you, Serena. Thank you, Susan, for the presentations and the kind words. I just say, if you get a chance in the fall and the winter to go to the wetlands, it's a special place, and I think you'll be very satisfied with your trip to American Canyon. So, enjoy, and happy birding to everybody, and go Warriors! Yes.